My husband furiously threw he and our son out after I refused to wear the traditional dress his mother picked for me. "You're a disgrace to this family," he shouted as relatives watched. I took my child and left. 3 days later, he came back to an empty house and a community petition taped to the door. "My name is Alina. I'm 34. I'm a mom, a teacher, and, up until not too long ago, a very tired wife. I live in Montclair, New Jersey." Well, lived. I'll get to that part. I met Dario when I was in my late 20s. We were both in a professional development course for teachers and school staff up in New Haven. He was charming in a quiet way. He didn't dominate conversations, but he listened. At first, that was comforting. He was soft-spoken, stable, and always a bit old-fashioned, which didn't seem like a red flag back then. It felt grounding. He came from a big family, the kind where Sunday dinners were a weekly ritual and everyone knew everyone's business. I grew up in a more relaxed household in Vermont. My family had dinner together, sure, but we weren't calling each other 3 times a day or weighing in on everyone's life choices. The difference between our families didn't feel like a problem at first. Until it did. His mother, Mirela, was the self-appointed queen of the family. You'd think I'm exaggerating, but no. This woman had a hand in everything: who wore what holidays were hosted where, even what names were appropriate for new babies. It started small. When Dario and I got engaged, she insisted on planning most of the wedding. I pushed back a little, but not much. I told myself it was easier to let her have her way, and honestly, I didn't care enough about napkin colors to argue. After Leo was born, our son, things got more intense. Suddenly, every parenting choice I made was up for debate. The brand of diapers? Not what the family uses. My homemade baby food? Too unconventional. She'd show up unannounced, rearrange Leo's dresser drawers, and once even replaced all the baby bottles I had carefully picked with some she said were more traditional. Dario? He never really stood up to her. Not in a malicious way. It was more like, he just didn't see the problem. He'd say things like, "She means well," or "It's just how she is." And so, I swallowed it. Again. 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 Until I couldn't. Leo was turning 7. We decided to throw him a birthday party at our house, nothing big, just friends from school, cousins, neighbors, some pizza, and cake. A week before the party, Mirela called me. It was late. She asked what I'd be wearing. I remember because I had just come out of the shower and was in pajamas, towel in my hair, completely not expecting a pop quiz on wardrobe decisions. I told her I had a simple plum dress I planned to wear. Comfortable. Nice enough for a kid's party. There was a pause. "Not very celebratory, is it?" she said. I laughed awkwardly. "Well, I think it's fine. It's Leo's day, anyway." Apparently, that was the wrong answer. 2 days later, a box showed up at our door. Inside? A maroon traditional-style dress, heavy, full of lace, with gold embroidery at the neckline. The kind of thing you'd wear to a formal religious ceremony, not a child's backyard party with balloon animals and juice boxes. There was a handwritten note from Mirela inside: "Wear this. It's proper for the mother of the birthday boy. Family name matters." I put the box in the closet. I didn't touch it again. The day of the party, the weather was perfect. Sunny, breezy. Leo was over the moon, bouncing around with his friends. I put on my plum dress. It was clean, simple, and it felt like me. I remember stepping outside to help set up the tables when Dario saw me. He didn't say anything at first. Just stared. Mirela was already there, of course, and the minute she saw me, her lips pursed like she'd bitten into a lemon. The rest of the afternoon, I tried to ignore the tension. I kept myself busy, cutting cake, helping the kids with party games, chatting with the neighbors. But Dario wasn't himself. He was short with me. Barely looked at me. After most of the guests had left, and while a few cousins were still lingering, I went inside to grab some napkins. That's when he followed me. "You really couldn't wear the dress," he said, low and clipped. "I wore what I felt comfortable in," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "She asked for one thing, Alina." "One." "It's not her party. It's Leo's." That's when his voice raised. And it didn't come back down. "You're a disgrace to this family." I froze. He didn't care who heard him. He didn't lower his voice. He just kept going, about respect, about tradition, about how embarrassed I made him look in front of everyone. I looked behind him, and sure enough, people were standing in the doorway. Listening. Watching. Including Leo, who was holding a paper plate with half a slice of pizza, looking like he wanted to disappear. I didn't cry. I didn't scream back. I just stood there. And when he was done, when the silence got real loud, he said, "If you can't be part of this family, get out." I looked at him. I looked at our son. And I walked past both of them. I packed a bag. I picked up Leo. And we left. We stayed at my friend Karina's place in Morristown. She'd always told me I could crash there if I ever needed. I never thought I'd actually take her up on it. Dario didn't call. Not once. Not to check on Leo. Not to apologize. Nothing. But others did. Anna, a mutual friend who had been at the party, called me 3 days later. She sounded livid. Apparently, everyone was talking. Not in a gossip way, but in a "we've seen enough" kind of way. She told me she and some of the other women had gotten together and started writing something. A letter, a kind of open petition. They were done with Mireille's behavior. Done with the way Dario always enabled it. Done watching women get pushed down and pushed out of the family system if they didn't conform. The day Dario came home to find the house empty, the living room bare, the hallway missing Leo's soccer cleats and my books. There was a petition taped to the door. It had 67 signatures. Neighbors. Friends. Relatives. Even Mireille's former best friend. The title? "We Stand with Alina." The day after the petition went up, my phone started blowing up. Not from Dario. No. He waited a little longer. It was Mireille first. She didn't call, of course. She wasn't the type to have a direct conversation when things got messy. Instead, she sent me a long email. 4 full paragraphs. The subject line? Misunderstanding. I remember staring at it for a long time before opening it. Part of me didn't even want to read it, I already knew what it would say. But curiosity got the better of me. And there it was. She started by saying how sorry she was that things escalated, which, of course, placed no responsibility on anyone. Then she went on about how family traditions were sometimes lost in the modern world, and how she was only trying to preserve something sacred. She referred to the dress as a symbol of continuity and said that it was never about control. She didn't mention the public shouting. She didn't mention Dario telling me to leave our home. She didn't mention Leo watching the whole thing unfold like a nightmare at his own birthday party. I didn't reply. What do you even say to someone who wraps their insults in tradition and calls it love? What really hit me was the last line, "Perhaps in time, you'll come to understand why I did what I did." No. I understood perfectly. Later that night, Dario finally called. I saw his name flash across my phone screen as I was brushing Leo's hair, getting him ready for bed. I let it ring. He didn't leave a voicemail that time. But the next morning, I got one. "Alina," his voice started, slow and calm, like he was reading from a script. "I think we need to talk. Not just about us, but about Leo. He's missing his home. I miss him. I miss you." We both said things we didn't mean. I played it on speaker so Karina could hear. She rolled her eyes halfway through. Another voicemail came that afternoon. This one more pointed. This isn't just your decision. You can't just take him and disappear. That's not how family works. You don't get to walk away and then act like you're the victim. So much for, we both said things. But here's the part that still gets me. Leo was in the room when the second voicemail played. He looked up from his Legos and said, "Why is he mad again? Is it because of the dress?" I nodded, quietly. And then he said, "I like your purple dress more." I had to go into the bathroom to cry. That weekend, Anna texted me a photo. Dario had taken the petition down from the door. Not ripped. Not crumpled. Just removed. Like pretending it didn't happen would make it go away. But people had seen it. Lots of them. And more stories started surfacing. One of Dario's cousins told Anna about her wedding rehearsal dinner, where Mirela demanded she change her seating chart because certain family members shouldn't sit with outsiders. Another woman, a former neighbor, shared how Mirela used to show up uninvited to her house after she married into the family, just to make sure she wasn't letting things slide. There were even old friends from their church group who came forward with their own stories. The thing was, everyone knew. They just never said it out loud. The petition had pulled the curtain back. I wasn't the first to be treated that way. But I was the first to leave loudly. And people noticed. One afternoon, I took Leo to Brookdale Park for a picnic. It was warm out, and the cherry blossoms had started blooming. He was chasing ducks and laughing like nothing had ever happened. I remember sitting on the bench, watching him, thinking, this feels more like home than that house ever did. Then my phone buzzed. A new message from Dario. Shorter this time. "You can't keep him from me forever. I'm his father." That one sat in my stomach for hours. It wasn't that I wanted to keep Leo from his dad. I didn't. I still believed that Dario loved him. But I also knew what Leo had seen. And heard. And felt. So I called my lawyer. We started the process. Separation. Custody. Legal boundaries. It was messy. He fought back at first, said I was using Leo to punish him. But the thing about petitions, the thing about 67 names and a well-documented history of control and outbursts? It creates a trail. And trails are hard to ignore in court. Leo, bless him, was stronger than I expected. We talked about everything, at a level a 7-year-old could grasp. I never badmouthed his dad. I just told the truth. That people should make you feel safe, not small. That being part of a family should never mean losing yourself. That grown-ups sometimes make choices that don't feel fair, but that I was doing my best to protect him and myself. I got him a journal. He started drawing pictures of our new life. A townhouse with sunflowers on the porch. A school with nicer teachers. Me in my pretty purple dress. Karina offered to help me redecorate the guest room where we were staying. I said no at first, but then I realized, maybe I needed to start picturing a life, not just surviving one. So I bought a small plant. A bookshelf. I started cooking again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The smell of homemade soup filled the space like a reset button. People kept reaching out. Women mostly. Some who had been quiet at the party, others who hadn't seen me in years. They'd message things like, "Thank you for standing up. I wish I had done what you did. I didn't know how to leave. You showed it's possible. I didn't feel brave. I felt tired." But maybe that's how courage really looks. Not loud. Not fiery. Just persistent. Quiet. The decision to choose peace over tradition. Over reputation. Over someone else's version of love. Mirela never reached out again. Not directly, at least. I heard through Anna that she was deeply hurt and confused. That she felt betrayed by everyone turning on her. But not once did she ask about Leo. Not once did she try to repair anything with me. As for Dario, his calls slowed. I think the weight of it all began to settle in. That he wasn't just dealing with a difficult wife. He was facing the consequences of years of silence. Of letting his mother speak for him. Of thinking love meant obedience. I don't know if he's realized all of that yet. I'm not sure it matters. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't bracing myself for Sunday dinner. I wasn't apologizing for being myself. I wasn't shrinking to keep the peace. I was just breathing. And Leo was thriving. He told me one night, as I tucked him in, "I like it here better. You smile more." I kissed his forehead and said, "Me too." Things started to feel normal. Not the kind of normal we had before, the kind where I was constantly biting my tongue and adjusting myself to fit into a mold I never belonged in. This was a new kind of normal. It was quiet, calm. I didn't wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach wondering what mood Dario would be in. I didn't worry if Leo would overhear another argument. We were just living. Karina's place wasn't huge, but it had a warmth to it that our old house never really had. She had this creaky old kitchen floor that sang a little every time you stepped near the stove. Leo thought it was hilarious, like the floor was talking. I loved how much he laughed there. I don't think I realized how muted his joy had been before. I had started working remotely again, nothing too intense, just tutoring some high school students in English Lit and helping a friend with copy editing on the side. It was enough to keep me busy without pulling me away from Leo. Court proceedings were slow and exhausting. Dario didn't make it easy. He filed motions trying to get joint custody right out of the gate. My lawyer was prepared, though. We had that voicemail, the eyewitness accounts, the petition. And even though the court tries to be neutral, it was clear Dario didn't look great in front of the judge. Not when he had so obviously kicked out the mother of his child over a dress. He started showing up to supervised visits stiff and performative, like he thought being overly fatherly in front of the supervisor would fix everything. Leo was polite but distant. There was no real connection anymore. Dario kept asking him if he wanted to come back home. Leo always said, "I like Mom's place." I never coached him. I never had to. That part stung more for Dario than anything else. I could see it on his face each time. Like he was finally realizing Leo saw things. He remembered. He understood. Meanwhile, Mirela had gone quiet. I'd expected her to make some grand public apology or spin the whole thing like I had overreacted. But nothing came. She'd gone radio silent. I heard through a few people that she had been shocked by how many people turned against her after the petition. Anna told me Mirela had tried organizing a little family dinner to do damage control a few weeks after I left. Only a handful of relatives showed up. Most of them had seen what happened firsthand, and the rest had heard from enough sources that they couldn't look the other way anymore. The queen bee had lost her swarm. There was one day, though, that stood out. It was about a month after I left. Leo had been invited to a friend's birthday party at a little indoor trampoline park. I took him, of course, and I was watching him from one of those uncomfortable little benches while sipping bad vending machine coffee. Out of nowhere, Dario showed up. He didn't say he'd be there. He wasn't on the RSVP. He just walked in, looked around, and when he spotted me, came straight over. "Can we talk?" I looked at Leo. He was laughing, bouncing around in a blur of blue socks and messy hair, and then I stood. "We can talk here," I said. "I'm not leaving him alone." He looked tired. Not in the physical sense, more like something in him had caved in. "I didn't expect it to fall apart like this," he said, glancing at Leo. I thought you'd come back." "I know," I said, not unkindly. That was the problem. He sighed. "It was just a dress." "No, Dario," I said quietly. "It was never just a dress." I didn't want to humiliate him in public, but I also wasn't about to soften the truth. He had treated me like a prop. Like I was there to wear what his mother chose, say what she wanted, fit into the image she'd curated for her perfect family. And the moment I didn't, he snapped. I didn't think you'd actually leave, he said again. I didn't think I would either, I admitted. But once I did, I realized how long I'd been gone. That hit him. I could see it. Like he'd finally gotten a peek behind the curtain. He nodded slowly, as if trying to process it all. Then he said, I'm going to try. I know I was wrong. I don't expect anything from you. But I want to be better for him. For a moment, I just watched Leo jumping, completely oblivious to the adult drama unfolding in the corner of the room. I hope you mean that, I said. Because he deserves it. We both do. He nodded, then quietly left. He didn't even say goodbye to Leo. That was the first time I saw Dario look smaller. Not weak, not pitiful. Just human. Back at Karina's that night, Leo asked if Dad was mad. I told him no. That we had just talked. That sometimes grown-ups need to have hard conversations to figure things out. He accepted it without pushing. He always seemed to know when to ask and when to just let things be. Weeks went by. I finally found a place of our own, small townhouse a few blocks from a little cafe and a park Leo loved. It wasn't big, but it was ours. No one else had a say in where the furniture went, or what curtains I picked, or how many books I crammed into the hallway shelf. I even hung one of Leo's drawings in the entryway. When we moved in, I let him pick out a new bedspread. He chose one with little astronauts all over it. Said he wanted to sleep in space. That night, as I tucked him in, he looked up at me and asked, "Are we staying here forever?" I smiled and said, "We're staying as long as it feels like home." He nodded, satisfied, and rolled over into his pillow. And for the first time in a long time, I laid in bed without tension behind my eyes. No worrying about Mirella dropping by unannounced. No wondering if I'd said something that would make Dario go cold again. I was finally in a space that was mine. Ours. Of course, the story doesn't just end there. Life kept going. Dario still had supervised visits. Mirella wasn't done being Mirella. And not everyone in the family stayed supportive once the dust settled. Some people started quietly siding with Dario again, trying to pretend like nothing had happened. But I wasn't the same person I was when I left that day with Leo's little hand in mine. And I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. A few weeks into our new place, we found a rhythm. Leo settled in quickly. Kids are strange that way, resilient in the face of chaos, finding joy in the simplest things. His favorite part of the new house? The stairs. Just a simple staircase with 6 squeaky steps and a narrow turn halfway up. He raced up and down them like they were some kind of playground slide. It drove me a little crazy, but I let him. It was our space now, and if he wanted to make noise, he could. Me? I was adjusting, too. Slowly. I still had that impulse to check my tone when speaking around people, to keep the peace even when it wasn't mine to keep. Mirella's voice still echoed in the back of my head during the most unexpected moments. Like when I was choosing an outfit for a parent-teacher meeting, I caught myself wondering what she'd think. Then I stopped. I wore my jeans and blue cardigan, the one with the coffee stain on the sleeve. Because I wanted to. Therapy helped. I found a therapist in town who specialized in women recovering from controlling relationships, not just romantic ones, but familial dynamics too. She told me something in one of our first sessions that stuck with me: what you allowed to continue, you were conditioned to believe was normal. That doesn't make you weak. It means you were surviving. And I had survived. But now I wanted to live. Meanwhile, Dario kept showing up to the supervised visits. He was quieter now. Less performative. I noticed he had started bringing things Leo liked, his favorite fruit snacks, new books, even a second-hand Lego set that probably took some hunting to find. Leo responded in kind. Slowly. Carefully. But the tension between them began to soften, like a heavy blanket being peeled back. I wasn't ready to forgive him. I wasn't sure I ever would, not fully. But I also wasn't trying to punish him anymore. My focus was Leo. As long as he was safe and supported, I could live with the rest. Mirela, on the other hand, was still seething. She didn't reach out directly again, but her energy found its way back to me through the usual channels: extended relatives, old neighbors, even a woman from church who texted me a long message about understanding both sides. The guilt trips came laced in politeness. You know, she just wants her family back together. It's a generational thing, she didn't mean to offend. She raised Dario on her own after his father died. She's just strong-willed. I deleted every one of those messages. I didn't owe anyone a response, not anymore. Then, in the middle of all that, something unexpected happened. One of Dario's cousins, Mesa, reached out. We'd never been particularly close. She was quiet, kept to herself at family functions, usually staying on the outskirts. But she messaged me out of the blue and asked if we could meet for coffee. I almost said no. I was tired of conversations that circled around apologies without substance. But something about her message felt different. So we met. We picked a little cafe near Watchung Plaza, the kind with mismatched mugs and chalkboard menus. She arrived 5 minutes early, already waiting when I walked in, nervously fidgeting with her spoon. I won't take much of your time, she said quickly. I wanted to say thank you. That caught me off guard. For what? For walking out, she said. For making it loud. You don't know how many of us wanted to say something over the years and didn't. I blinked. She wasn't accusing. She wasn't prodding. She was relieved. She went on to tell me how Mirela had belied her for years, ever since she was a teenager. About her weight, her clothes, her choice to go into graphic design instead of something respectable. How Mirela once told her she was wasting her looks by staying single too long. She shared story after story, and my jaw was basically in my lap the whole time. You just snapped the rope we were all dangling from, Mesa said. And once you did, some of us realized we didn't want to climb back up. That conversation stuck with me for weeks. I kept replaying it in my head, especially on hard days when I questioned whether I'd done the right thing by leaving. When I worried about what Leo would carry with him. When I missed the version of Dario I fell in love with, before the silences got longer and the control more subtle. But Mesa's words were like a hand on my back. A reminder that this wasn't just about me. Or Leo. It was about every woman who stayed silent because speaking up meant becoming the enemy. A few nights after our coffee, Leo asked me about his grandma. We were eating dinner, mac and cheese with broccoli he'd picked at but barely touched. I could tell something was on his mind. Is Grandma mad at you? He asked, avoiding eye contact. I put my fork down. Why do you ask that, bud? She used to come over a lot. Now she doesn't. I took a deep breath. Sometimes people get upset when things change. And sometimes, when grown-ups don't agree, they need space. He chewed on that. Literally and figuratively. Then said, I don't miss her that much. I didn't say anything right away. I just rubbed his back and let the silence sit. The truth was, he didn't have the best memories of her. He was just too young to understand why. Mirela had always treated him well enough, but it was the way she treated me that mattered. He saw it, even if he couldn't name it. And the older he got, the more I knew those memories would shape his understanding of love, of partnership, of respect. I was trying to give him a new blueprint. One night, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine and looked around the living room. It still had that just moved in feel. A few pictures on the wall, but not much else. Books stacked instead of shelved. Leo's toys tucked into a basket that never stayed organized. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos: Leo's first birthday, our wedding, a family barbecue where I was smiling so hard it looked painful. And then, I stopped on one from a year ago. It was taken on the front steps of our old house. Mirela had insisted on a full family photo after Easter brunch. I remembered that day clearly, I had spilled something on my blouse and had to change last minute, and she scolded me for not looking presentable. I zoomed in on my face. The smile was there. But my eyes? Empty. Flat. Distant. I looked at a photo Karina had taken of me and Leo just last week at the park. No makeup. Hair a mess. Wearing an oversized hoodie and sneakers. But I looked like myself. Alive. That was the difference. I still didn't know what the future held. There were custody hearings to get through, more conversations to have, more questions from Leo as he pieced together the new shape of his life. And there was still Dario, still trying, still unsure of his place now. But I knew one thing, I'd stopped shrinking. And I wasn't going back. About 2 months after we settled into the townhouse, I got an invitation. It came in the form of a white embossed envelope, slipped into my mailbox without a return address. I opened it in the kitchen while Leo was coloring at the table. The paper was thick, expensive. The kind that people use when they want to show off how serious they are about tradition and appearance. Mirella was hosting a family reunion. A formal one. At some banquet hall in Clifton. Full dinner. Live music. A celebration of family unity. The invitation made no mention of the recent chaos. No mention of me being removed from the family home. No mention of the petition taped to the front door. But my name was on the guest list. In delicate cursive. I almost laughed. I set it on the counter and walked away. But over the next few days, it gnawed at me. Not because I wanted to go, but because I knew exactly why she'd sent it. Damage control. She wanted the illusion of harmony back. To parade around the happy family image, maybe even spin it as if I'd returned, that all had been forgiven and forgotten. She was trying to bury the scandal and reclaim her role as matriarch without ever taking responsibility for the mess she made. Dario called a few days later. I know you got the invitation, he said, his tone careful. I didn't have anything to do with it. She said it was important to her, so I just stayed out of it. Of course he did. I'm not going, I told him. I figured you'd say that. But I thought you should know, she's telling everyone you might come. That she's making amends. I paused. She said that? He sighed. She's painting it like she's been working on healing things. Like she's the bigger person. That made something snap into place for me. For weeks, I'd been doing the slow work of building a new life. Keeping my head down. Prioritizing Leo. Healing. But this? This was different. This wasn't about keeping peace anymore. This was about making sure the truth didn't get erased for the sake of her image. So I decided I would go. But on my terms. I found a dress. Not a loud one. Not something meant to provoke. It was soft blue, simple, and fit perfectly. It was what I would have worn to the party that started this whole thing if I'd been free to choose without judgment. I wasn't dressing for Mirella, or for Dario, or for any kind of performance. I was dressing like myself. Karina offered to babysit Leo, and though he was disappointed to miss the fancy food, he didn't protest. The banquet hall was already half full when I walked in. Heads turned. People who hadn't seen me since the birthday party blinked, surprised. Mirella was near the front, holding court as usual, wearing a heavy jeweled dress and the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her expression froze when she saw me. But only for a second. Then it was back, the poised, polished facade. Alina, she said, walking toward me like we were dear friends. I'm so glad you came. I smiled politely. Of course. I heard you were telling everyone you'd made peace with me. She blinked, caught slightly off guard. Well, I thought it was time to move forward. Families should come together, especially after unpleasantness. I didn't bite. Instead, I pulled out a small stack of printed pages from my purse. I brought something, I said, and handed her the papers. What's this? It's a copy of the petition. In case you forgot what people actually think of how you treat others. I also included some of the stories that were shared with me afterward. I redacted names for privacy. She paled a little but tried to keep smiling. I don't see how this is necessary. Oh, it is. Because you invited me here under the pretense of reconciliation. But we both know this was about image. You wanted everyone to see me here and think I'd come crawling back. I didn't. By now, several relatives had started inching closer, sensing the tension. I lowered my voice so only she could hear. If you want your reputation intact, try earning it next time. Because I'm done playing quiet. I turned before she could answer. Dario was across the room, watching everything unfold. He didn't come over. He didn't try to stop me. Maybe part of him respected it. Or maybe he was still too afraid of conflict to pick a side. I stayed at the event just long enough to have a drink and talk with Mesa and Anna. I made sure people saw me laughing, relaxed, entirely unbothered. And then I left. No shouting. No scenes. Just facts. And the quiet, steady revenge of showing up unafraid. The next week, Mirela went silent again. But not before 2 more cousins messaged me, saying how proud they were. That they'd never seen her speechless before. That the entire room had felt different after I left, like something had shifted, finally, and for good. As for Dario, he stuck to his supervised visits. He was softer now, more grounded. He never asked to come back. I think even he knew that door had closed. Eventually, we finalized the custody agreement. I got full custody with generous visitation rights for him, conditional on Leo's comfort. Dario didn't fight it. I think, in his own way, he accepted that he'd lost the right to be the anchor of our family. Leo was the center now. Not tradition. Not pride. Not appearances.